expect prices to moderate over the course of the year, but how worried are you that consumers and businesses are starting to expect inflation is here to stay and will act accordingly, especially as many workers aren't feeling any increase in wages due to the increase in prices?
So it's a concern, and it's why you heard the president on Friday reinforce that that the Fed should and needs to have the independence to act to make sure that prices don't become entrenched. I would say that if you look at the market, you don't see, you haven't seen a noticeable move in long-term inflation expectations as of recently, and so it's a concern, but it's also part of why we think that acting in the way that we've laid out and respecting the independence of the Fed is the right approach. And I think that for typical people who are working and thinking about their household budgets, for many of them, they've never seen a labor market that offers as many job opportunities as they have right now. For people in the bottom 40% of the income distribution, wage increases are up at historic levels, which creates new opportunities. And for many people, they are taking this opportunity to start new businesses and innovate. We've seen the rate of new applications for small businesses increase by 30%, and that's an opportunity for those people and the people that they will employ, but also a real driver of innovation and a signal of the health and the kind of economy and economic growth that we can drive if we keep at this. And the last thing I would say is that for those typical folks sitting around the kitchen table thinking about this coming year, the largest single costs that families face are healthcare, childcare, the cost of a home, and we have concrete, practical, straightforward ways to deliver relief on those costs and to do so in a way that wouldn't add to aggregate demand, wouldn't create an inflation concern, would be fully paid for across time. And in fact, the principal long-term economic impact would be to expand our economy's productive capacity by getting more people into the workforce. So that's why our focus and our work on Build Back Better continues. And I guess we will leave it there. Oh no, we have one more. Okay.
Build Back Better, would the White House support adding a work requirement like Senator Manchin has discussed to the child tax credit as part of the package?
So I think the president has spoken to the importance of the child tax credit and his views on that topic. I would say that if you look at the child tax credit itself, 97% of the recipients of the child tax credit are working, and among the remaining 3%, the majority are grandparents or people with disabilities. So I think that you have a tool that is delivering relief to working families right now. And in fact, what we've seen over the course of 2021 is that as that tax cut was delivered to families, we actually saw labor force participation and the employment to population ratio increase, meaning that we saw more people get into the workforce. And that's consistent with evidence historically and in other countries where they have similar child allowances, where you see no evidence of a negative impact on labor force participation, and in some cases a positive impact because it frees people up to work more. So certainly the president is focused on how to get more people working and make sure that that people have opportunities in this labor market, and the child tax credit is actually a very well-designed tool to do that.
At a minimum, the White House doesn't think it's necessary or it's redundant or as part of the package.
Yeah, certainly the child tax credit operates in a way that goes to working families and does not create any disincentive for people to work, and if anything, would help more families and more people get into the labor market.
All right,
Can
thank you,
I
Brian.
ask about the global phenomenon?
All right, kick it out. All right, last one, Raquel, on his way out.
Thank you so much, Brian. What do you make of statements that the pandemic will not be the #1 public enemy for the global economy this year, but it will be inflation and how central banks around the world could be the number one enemy of the global economy. How central banks respond to inflation and inflation.
Well, what I'd say to that is they're interlinked, and that is has been true and has been a feature of our economy and our economic recovery for the last year and a half. To the first question, that the more effective we are as a global community, as a United States and as a global community at working to contain this pandemic, get it under control, reduce the impact on people and individual health, but also on economic operations and supply chains and otherwise, the more quickly we can normalize supply chains and address the price increases, which are decidedly a global phenomenon. So I don't think that I don't think it's an either or. I think that there is an urgent and compelling priority to address the COVID pandemic globally, which is why you see this administration and the president acting across the board from vaccines to the other support that we're providing globally, and that the more effective we are at doing that, the more runway we'll provide for the global economy to grow while mitigating price increases.
All right. Thank you, Brian Deese.
Thank you all.